we don't get a lot of like really fast to read chapters in Eden Zero. I don't think there's a lot of times where it's like you go through like just like a chapter the same speed as I would put like a Bleach chapter, just because like sometimes Kubo wouldn't put oh, I actually moved my thing. Sometimes he would just have more visual stuff to kind of like set up the scene, get people more into like the tone of what's going on, and sometimes with that it would just take a lot less dialogue. And I know Fujimoto does it a lot with Chainsaw Man, but we don't have a lot of like super fast to read chapters for Eden Zero. I legitimately think this is probably one of the fastest ones that I've read through, if not the fastest so far in the series. But where we left off, you had this very strange looking android girl, and we knew from the skeleton naming Nadia, where this is obviously this person's name. I'm wondering if this character is the same one, or if it's like a robot that was named after whoever that guy was talking about, kind of thing. I don't really know. I mean, obviously, we don't really have a lot of information. Is it foreshadowing for something bigger? But while they're talking to this character, there's a couple clues they find. Obviously, like, well, she is the guardian of this place, and she holds like a way to lead to the beacon of Mother, which, there are certain fractions of the eventual roadmap that will lead to Mother. Whether it's like part of coordinates out in space, or a straight mystery like a scavenger hunt or something, or if it's like, you're gathering bits to build a device that will like track you to wherever Mother is or something, or I guess like guide you, track Mother and then bring you to wherever she is, or some like location deep out in space. And this poor character, I feel bad for her, because she brings up that she's an old model android multiple times, but like you see it really in this cord that she's tied to, because the length that it's displayed, like she probably I think just looking at it, it's probably like 20 feet or something, 30 feet. Which means like she probably has never left this room. She's probably never left this room in 200 years. Just, hey, travelers, you coming by? You're doing whatever it is you're doing. Well, let me do what I can to kind of just guide you, and then I guess I'll stay here and be bored out of my mind. Either way, though, like, well, she's explaining to them essentially what's going on, and like she's talking about like how the beacon is deep within the behind the doors that she's guarding, and she'll let them in, but she won't guarantee their safety. She's like, listen, if you guys go in there, but she's just like putting in there, I'm not liable for anything that really happens to you guys, so if you guys go in and something bad happens, no suing, you can't blame me. But after that, like, there's some obvious signs of why the characters are like, oh yeah, you're not, dude, like, some of you are not going to go anywhere within this. Like, well, she's talking about, it's like, don't, nothing is gained from foolhardiness. If they fail, they should make haste coming back. I feel like it's going to be like one of those trials where you have to give up, but a certain way. It's not going to be the same as just like you get in, you get whatever the treasure is, and you get out. It's going to be something like a lesson to be learned. Like, it's more of like a puzzle for the people entering, rather than the puzzle set up for the trial or whatever it is. But like, they go in, they go down these stairs. There's all these like buried buried plants. Not even buried. It's like, I can't tell if it's like moss on top of pillars, or if it's like these are weird plants that are growing up. Either way, it looks comfortable. It looks like it'd be just like a bunch of underground like moss and algae or whatever. And the further they go in, the hotter it gets. Just like at the start, it just probably feels like being in a sauna. It's just like a high level of humidity. But like, obviously for Homura, that's worse for her that's just bad for her, because she does bad with levels of heat. And here she's already in trouble. She decides to go further ahead so the heat won't take her down. And the further they get in, there's actual fire. Like, it's no longer just being in a hot room. It's, oh yeah, things are starting to swelter up. They're starting to boil. And then the further they go in, when Shiki tries to go a little bit further, there's magma. Like, it goes from just fire and hot rock to literally molten rock. Like, the further they go in, the worse it gets. So they're going to have to retreat. They had to get out of there, all like just dip back to where Nadia is, and probably regroup and try and figure out exactly what the next plan is. Because obviously they're going to have to pass it. They got to figure out what it is they need to do. But whatever it is they need to do, they can't really either figure out or utilize yet. and they're even seeing like their clothes are starting to like melt off and stuff. You have like Happy Bot's like robot skin is starting to melt, Pino's as well, and she's having trouble with her systems. But when they get back and they're just kind of like discussing over like everything that happened and just dealing with the heat, like obviously Homura is just like, ah, shit, like she's in a bad state. She's like barely like able to really get up. She just like kind of knelt down on the ground. And while they're talking, they're like discussing like what their options are. Like Hermit's like being like, oh well, the Arsenal suit has the same thermo stability like settings as like the Shining Stars, so if they can't go in, then he's not going to be able to go in even with the suit. And they're saying, oh, well, we need a level of armor capable of, like, on level with Ziggy in order to really do this. And Nadia brings up, you know, an android with a skull mask came through, like, 15 years ago. Which, you know, is obvious. Like, we know that Ziggy would have had to come through here at some point for how his journey worked out. But she brings up earlier that the treasure there isn't there, but the beacon is still there. So I'm curious to know what the treasure he took is. Like, what is it that he acquired, like, from this place? What is this apparent, this artifact, treasure, trinket, whatever? Like, is it something that will just make him more powerful, or is it something, like, he could use for his ship and his systems? I like the idea of, like, if you conquer one of these dungeons, not only do you get something that will lead you towards Mother, but you also get some form of upgrade, some form of boost to your stats and capabilities. Because I'm just thinking of, like, Zelda dungeons. Like, you know, you get in there, you beat the boss, you get, like, a heart, maybe you get, like, a mini you complete an extra heart that you've been building with the fractions. What is it? 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. You know what I mean? But you do that. But there's also, you know, you get whatever the weapon is or upgrade in that dungeon, so you become out there more powerful. Like, you leave the dungeon better equipped than you did before. So, like, well, I don't know really what they would get that would make them better. Like, if Shiki got some form of, you know, maybe he got like a pair of goggles that were actually like did something to his ether gear or something, or like gave him this will make your ether gear 30% stronger or something. It's something like that, just like a general, like, cool, an increase, a buff, some form of extra that we have to right now. Or, like, I guess in Rebecca's case, a gun. I think that'd be the easiest one, really. It's just like some really cool advanced gun from some like ancient weaponsmith somewhere out in the universe or some shit. But while they're just kind of like going over what their options are, trying to figure out what they need to do, they bring up, what about Witch? The fact that she can use water ether, while she was like trying to, like, there's like, oh yeah, the short answer is she can't do it, but she has a plan, and she ends up going to Blue Garden. She just gets in the ship, warps out of there and goes to Blue Garden, where she comes across, she tracks down and she's looking for, because she brings up anybody that she's made an enemy, she keeps tracking. And the person that it ends up being is Laguna. And I think Laguna is like a character I think most people figured would become a member of the main crew, based off of the fact that, like, out of the members that were there with Drac and Joe, he didn't want to do any of, like, the aggressively violent things or things he thought were overkill. He clearly had, like, a much better heart than I think a lot of the other people. Like, obviously, like, the other one was Jin. And Jin's already sort of part of the crew. It's just wait for that official, like, acceptance that he's in there. But Laguna, I think Laguna, I would be fine if he ends up becoming a member of the Eden Zero crew, but I also would be perfectly fine if he just kind of becomes like an ally, like somebody out in space that, like, they could call upon, like, for favors, and be like, hey man, we've got this thing going on, we need, like, a guy who manipulates water, and you're the best water manipulator we know, so can you come help us with this thing or something? And he'd be like, you know what, I think I will. It maybe doesn't have to be directly always on board the ship, but just somebody that you can kind of, like, call upon for help, I think would be really cool. I still have my theories that, like, maybe Drac and Joe, like a younger version, because the series has time travel and Shiki's ability to, like, pull memories out of people's heads in his Demon King form, that you could have something like a younger Drac and Joe join the crew. There's a lot of potential that really you can do with a series like this, just based off of, like, again, time travel shenanigans. Like, we already have Wise as a member of the crew. Like, you could easily have a younger Drac and Joe, but I don't know, it's like I said, still a mystery right now. We're still, like, in a pretty alright opener for this, like, little mini arc. I doubt that the stuff on Red Cave will go that long. Like, I can see it being a couple chapters, and then this will be like just a small opener, and then we'll get the stuff with Poseidon Arrow, and then like we'll get more into like the Erasion Stace Interstellar and stuff, figure out what else he's been up to, and where a lot of these characters are kind of like plotting all their schemes, and what the bigger meat over in the Aoi Cosmos is going to pertain to. Like, maybe whoever has the relic, maybe it's Poseidon Arrow, and it's not actually Ziggy or something. I don't know. Either way, though, that'd actually be really cool if it's like, oh yeah, it's Poseidon Arrow, like Ziggy got the info but he didn't get the relic, and then it's like, or the artifact or treasure, whatever, and it's like, well, maybe, and then it revealed like the reason Poseidon is so strong is because he's the one that has this treasure, and that's where like all his power comes from. For the most part, he just has this amazing technology that he obtained from a dungeon, or pretty much it's a dungeon, but you know, whatever. Anyway, other than that, they'll comment below. I really appreciate you thumbs up the video, but from the like button and the subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and thank you all for listening. Bye.